We haven't seen a good fantasy series since Game of Thrones, says author Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson, a prolific fantasy author, has voiced his concerns about the state of epic fantasy series today. Sanderson is best known for completing the Wheel of Time series after Robert Jordan's death, a series that has since been adapted into a TV show, as well as for his own epic fantasy works, including the Mistborn and Stormlight Archive series. Sanderson recently published Wind and Truth, a novel part of his Cosmere universe, which quickly became a New York Times bestseller following its release in December 2024. Sanderson's comments came after a recent analysis of how the fantasy genre is performing in the entertainment industry. In his remarks, Sanderson pointed out that despite the success of some shows like Rings of Power and Wheel of Time, the genre is still lacking the kind of impact that Game of Thrones had in its prime. He emphasized that these shows haven't reached the same level of widespread popularity, a critical component of successful adaptations. Sanderson also mentioned that he was offered several deals to adapt his own works for television, but he has turned down many due to concerns about how epic fantasy is handled by studios. In an interview with Polygon, he also shared his thoughts about what it would take for an adaptation of his works to succeed. Brandon Sanderson has openly shared his frustrations with how epic fantasy is being adapted for television. He mentioned that while streaming services are rushing to option big fantasy titles, they haven't yet produced a show with the same level of success as Game of Thrones. Sanderson's own works have been sought after, but he remains cautious. Sanderson said, "Streaming has had a big problem with epic fantasy, and this has me worried. Rings of Power and Wheel of Time have not gone as well as I would have hoped. Shadow and Bone lasted only 2 seasons, after a very strong first season. Streaming hasn't figured out epic fantasy yet. Maybe this is a holdover from network television days, where they are trying to make the episodes fit into the structure of how episodic television used to work, rather than filming an 8-hour movie and showing it in chunks. But maybe that's a bad idea. All I know is, right now we haven't seen really great epic fantasy film television since the early, mid-seasons of Game of Thrones. $50 million per episode has not done it, so it's not a matter of the money they're throwing at it." For Sanderson, the heart of the issue lies in how studios approach adapting these works. They struggle to find the right balance between staying true to the books and creating a compelling on-screen experience. Brandon Sanderson has voiced concerns about adapting his own works for film and television, citing that many adaptations fail to honor the source material. He has rejected several offers to bring his Cosmere universe to the screen, largely due to his belief that studios and streamers aren't fully prepared to do his stories justice. In particular, Sanderson emphasized that the current landscape of epic fantasy adaptations is problematic, citing examples like The Witcher. He believes that The Witcher failed to fully capture its source material, especially after Henry Cavill, a major fan of the books, was replaced as Geralt. Sanderson pointed out that the show's creative team didn't listen to Cavill, a decision he views as a mistake, which ultimately hurt the show's potential. Sanderson said, I really think the key member is that visionary filmmaker. Epic fantasy has responded poorly to too much oversight from above. I think that was The Witcher's problem. You had that visionary, it was Henry Cavill. And they didn't want to listen to him. So, well, there you go. Ultimately, Sanderson remains cautious about adapting his books for television or film, preferring to wait until the industry is ready to tackle epic fantasy with the care and attention it deserves. He's also hopeful that the success of certain projects, like How to Train Your Dragon's live-action adaptation, might signal a renaissance in the genre, helping to pave the way for a more successful era of epic fantasy adaptations.